This is TVC News Hour. I am Moses Omoghena with Business Update. The 21-week-long mine workers' strike in South Africa may be nearing an end. A long-awaited agreement has been reached between platinum producers and members of the Association of Mine Workers and Construction Union. If accepted by union members today, miners could be back at work almost immediately. Spokeswoman for the platinum producers, Shaman Russell, says AMCU is discussing the agreement with its members now and is seeking a mandate to accept it. She says the agreement aims to achieve a sustainable future for the three platinum companies for the benefit of all parties involved. AMCU has been on strike at Anglo-American Platinum, Impala Platinum and Lon Mine in the Northwest Platinum Belt since late January, asking for a basic monthly salary of $1,200. The labor disputes dominating South African news headlines for most of this year are set to continue their negative influence on the country's economic outlook. The latest business confidence index released in South Africa has remained unchanged at a low 41 points in the second quarter. TVC News Southern African correspondent Marcel Gordon has details.
A widely publicized platinum industry strike and questions over South Africa's ability to provide dependable and affordable electricity are all seen as contributing factors to an unchanged business confidence index. The index, which surveys 2,500 companies between May and June, shows that 60% of respondents continue to be unhappy about business conditions. Economist Alex Smith says one of the key factors driving the economy and areas like interest rates, inflation and currency is South Africa's large trade deficit.
The platinum strike is a real worry because mining exports are roughly half of our export basket, and if we can't get the mining exports back up and running, South Africa is going to remain vulnerable economically, and that means the risk of rating downgrades, that means the risk of further currency weakness, which in turn implies potentially higher inflation and indeed interest rate hikes as well.
Smith believes that even if South Africa's credit rating is downgraded, the country will still be rated as a safe investment.
What worries me is not necessarily the downgrade itself, but the rating or the watch that S&P puts us on. So if they downgrade us and then put us on a stable watch, that means that the risk of a further downgrade in the short term is relatively low. And then I think investors will be relatively comfortable with that. But if they downgrade us and leave us on a negative watch, which implies that there's a possibility of a further downgrade, that could cause some volatility in the marketplace, I think.
Ratings agency Standard & Poor's are widely expected to downgrade South Africa's credit rating when they release their latest figures on Friday. Marcel Gordon, TVC News, Johannesburg.
The Nigerian market opens Friday negatively following price losses recorded by some blue-chip firms on Thursday. On the phone now is a market analyst, Mukhtar Mohammed, to discuss the market with us. Thank you, Mr. Mohammed, for joining us as always.
Yes, it's a pleasure.
Now, trading is in red this morning. That's not a good sign. So can we hope that this will change before the end of business today?
Definitely, it will change. It will change, but whether it will up the losses for today, maybe not. But maybe we might not see the type of losses of 5%, 7%, 8% that we are seeing at the moment. But we definitely expect that there will be a little bit of losses today, and mostly it's on a Friday. And like I said last when I was seeing people, I did predict that this week is going to be a week of profit taking, because we've seen the stock market move in a manner that it has not moved for a long time. So we expect the trade to continue, but it will not be that drastic like what you are seeing at the moment.
Okay, so how strong are the work of trade speculators in the market now?
Well, they are still very strong. Really, we don't really have so much of speculators. We have so much of people that are trying to take profits and look for a good entry level again to come and take position. I think that's what we are presently seeing in terms. Not really has to do with so much of the speculative in terms of negativity.
What are your thoughts on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, going full length as a PLC on the floor?
That would be very great. We've been hearing it. So let's see it come to reality. I think that's what everybody is expecting, so that the stock exchange is being run as a corporate entity. You can't be telling other corporate entity what to do, and you yourself, you are running a one-man show. So it will be good to have them to come and that means they keep to their own rules that they are giving. They said you must release the result 3 months after the end of your year end or your quarterly. So we expect them to come and lead by example. This will be a very good omen for the market. It will enhance corporate governance.
All right. Many thanks, Mr. Mohammed, for your time. The World Bank has lowered projections for global economic outlook and is urging developing countries to double down on domestic reforms. According to the report from the World Bank Group, developing countries are headed for a year of disappointing growth. This year's first quarter weaknesses is laying an expected pickup in economic activity. The bank has lowered its forecast to 4.8% for developing countries, down from its January estimate of 5.3%.
Well, what we're seeing in this year's global economic prospects is a significant downgrade in the forecast for developing countries in 2014, mainly reflecting both the weak first quarter in the United States, but also the situation in the Ukraine that has damped growth a little bit everywhere in the world. So if developing countries are going to regain those stronger growth rates that they're going to need to make the inroads into poverty that we'd like to see, then they're really going to have to focus on structural policies, really push the envelope further.
And going east, in the freshly released Kenyan annual budget, the economy is expected to maintain steady growth at 5.8% and 6.4% in 2014 and 2015. Growth prospects remain strong, but many in the country, the high cost of living and rising inflation are major worries. Chris Wagombe reports.
Catherine Derry is busy preparing food for her lunchtime customers. Her kiosk is located in Kawangware, a low-income neighborhood in the outskirts of Nairobi, Kenya's capital city. Catherine has been running her business for 6 years. But she says things are much tougher now. She earns less than $10 a day.
If the government could at least lower our taxes, we'd at least manage to raise our living standards, we'll at least have to be in a better way to raise our families. That will at least make us to be in a better position in Kenya.
Honorable members. But Kenya's government says the economy remains strong and is expected to grow by 5.8% and 6.4%. Finance Minister Henry Rotich has released the country's budget for the 2014-2015 fiscal year starting in July. Government spending is projected at 1.8 trillion shillings, or about $20 billion US. But for many Kenyans, the news of a steady economic growth rate is little comfort. Last year, the government introduced a 16% tax on previously VAT-exempt goods. Catherine says some of her customers can no longer afford to buy food from her kiosk.
We've gotten a reduction of customers since, due to the high cost of our products, we cannot sell to as many customers as we used to do it before.
That the government would, Analysts like economist George Bodo believe the government needs to invest more money in key sectors like agriculture, the country's largest foreign exchange earner, if the cost of living is to come down.
One is energy, because the cost of energy has a direct impact on the cost of products. The second thing is infrastructure, which is also very key. You know, it's about talking about how can you get the produce into the market. Do you have that infrastructure? We don't have the infrastructure.
Still, Catherine continues to hope things in the country will improve and the new budget will bring better prospects for East Africa's largest economy. Chris Wagombe, TVC News, Nairobi, Kenya.
And going global, increasing demand for energy sources by Chinese and Indian companies has caused world oil prices to tick up. The American West Texas Intermediate crude climbs to its 3-day high on the back of a decline in U.S. crude stockpile. In London, the Brent crude future sells higher at $114 per barrel, following reports that OPEC cartel will maintain its current production output of 30 million barrels a day. The OPEC brand also records price appreciation as it trades upward at $107 a barrel. And that's it on Business Update. Allow me to hand over to Bukola and Azizat.
Many thanks, Moses Omoghena, for Business Update.
My pleasure.